I think that if it was against that backdrop of an America that reflected the America that both you and I want to see in our manifestation of our actual core values, then I think the discussion we'd have about what actually comprises American identity would be even, I think, a more pure version of that than one that is tainted by reactionary impulse. And this is how I worry that we lose to the left in part, is that
Yes.
we lose not with a bang, but with a whimper in many ways, allowing our own vision of our nation to be defined by our reaction to them, rather than by, turning the page and starting with a blank slate and actually asking ourselves, as our founders did in 1776, who are we? Irrespective of what these people on Columbia's lawn, immigrant or not, Black Lives Matter protester or not, who are we and what do we stand for today?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's part of what I see missing in our conservative movement. We either have the blithe donor class Republican puppet master control types, foreign interventionists and domestic surveillance statists, Dick Cheney 2.0 wing of the Republican Party today.
Mm-hmm.
But we might have, even in what I may call our wing, if I may take that
Mm-hmm.
liberty of the future conservative movement, one that is accidentally defined by the threat we're reacting to, rather than affirmatively defined on our own terms, right? Individual, family, nation, and God, serving
Mm-hmm.
as the alternative vision to race, gender, sexuality, and climate. And I think it's a hard thing to do, but that's a wish that I have. And I'd love to hear you in closing maybe react to that, to say that so much of our energy, I've done this, I think you've done this, many of us in our movement do this, allow ourselves to be defining ourselves in opposition to the thing we're trying to defeat, as opposed to creating some space to just say, that flag independently behind me stands for something else
Mm-hmm.
in its own right, on its own terms, regardless of what some anti-American left-wing person who hates this country has to say on a given day. It's irrelevant to the way I define American identity. And my definition of American identity has nothing to do with what that person has to say. It's going to be independent and stand regardless of it. And I just worry, we've had such a candid conversation, and I'll just close in candor. I worry that a little bit of even a deep, thoughtful, philosophically grounded and committed person like your vision of our national identity may itself be in part a projection of a response guided by people who hate this country, who should have nothing to do with defining what a person like you believes it means to be a citizen of this nation.
Sometimes an overreaction, or a reaction, I'd say, is necessary. And I don't think I haven't had a Nicorette for an hour now, so I'm not coming up with the best examples. But for many years, federal judges, especially after a lot of Democrat appointments, they were doing what New York judges, California judges, and DAs are doing now. They were not imposing proper punishments. This is when the last time we tried this experiment with releasing criminals, and the streets ran with blood. And so at least it could be done at the federal level. If you're not going to follow the law, if you're always going to, let off these rapists and murderers, or give them a slap on the wrist for murder, you get, 15 months in prison. Well, that's when we had the Sentencing Commission, which I think Justice Stephen Breyer was the head of. If he wasn't the head of, he was part of it. Yep. And instead of allowing judges discretion, they said, no, we gave you discretion. You couldn't be trusted with it. Here, we're setting the rules now. You can't, these are mandatory minimums. Now, discretion with judges is obviously preferable. The judge is sitting, he can hear the case. There might be, extenuating circumstances that the law isn't aware of. But if we can't trust you, we have to have an overreaction. And we can't trust, number one, the people running immigration, not Republican, not Democrat, not any place up or down the entire system. And we can't trust a lot of the immigrants they've brought in. I mean, again, manifestly present company excluded, but the polls of immigrants, including second generation immigrants, they have not imbued the belief in freedom of speech, freedom to own guns. And so sometimes you need the overreaction for a while to get back to what the center is.
There's a time and place for everything, I suppose, right? It's this Ecclesiastes concept. I think it shows up in many faiths. And I do believe that you can't win a war unless you recognize that you're in one. And we are
Yes.
in a kind of war for the future of this country right now. And our only chance of winning it is to first recognize that we're in a war.